Today's guest is Logan Murray. Logan Murray's been everywhere and done everything. Comedian, actor, performer, writer and comedy tutor. And over the years he's clocked up numerous appearances on television shows like Pebble Mill. Logan is one half of the infamous 90s double act Bib and Bob with Jerry Sadowitz. They appeared all over the country at festivals and had a West End run at the Clariterium Theatre. But what's particularly interesting to me is that the police were called twice, so something must have been going on. Logan was also the voice of Dennis the Menace, the child criminal who featured in the Beano. Welcome, Logan.
Hello.
I'm interested in your television connections, and I watch a lot of prison television. My favourites are Stash in the Attic, Beer Gut Hunt, Prisoners on Day Release visit as many pubs as they can, and that one where the two teams compete to drink as much special brew as they can, Hammered in the Home. But it's the adverts that get me, Logan. It's all adverts for donkey sanctuaries. Logan, where do you think all the donkeys are coming from?
Yeah. So I obviously, it sounds completely playing into the Guardian reading camp here, but I think obviously we have to admit all the donkeys have come from Blackpool, you know?
From the pleasure beaches. So when I get out, I'm thinking about starting my own sanctuary for animals, but I'm wondering what animal it could be.
Yeah.
What do you reckon? Like giraffe sanctuary or something like that?
Well, the thing is, all the you know, you watch all the nature documentaries, and it's always the sort of, you know, the sexy big beasts, you know, the sort of the pandas and the lions and the tigers and indeed the giraffes that get all the press. But you know, the thing is, you know, with global warming, we have got, well, you know, habitats are changing, and it's going to be a lot of species who don't get that publicity. So that's why, if I win the lottery, I'm going to open a cockroach sanctuary.
Very good. And, you know, how would you measure the success of a cockroach sanctuary? You know, bearing in mind that they can survive nuclear attacks and pretty much anything.
Yeah. Well, that would be my measure of success. I think I'd give it 6 months to get them flourishing. Then I'd set off a small thermonuclear device, probably in the gift centre, and then just see if they survive. And, you know, of course, a lot of your viewers, listeners are going to be saying, well, how would you find them? Well, glow in the dark, don't they? So just wait till night, you know, have a look around. If you see any glowy things moving, Bob's your uncle. Our new insect overlords have inherited the earth, you know, and I've done my bit.
And you're going to fund this through the lottery win, are you?
Yeah, well, why not? You know, I mean, I'd go straight to the government, but they've pissed all the money away by giving it to people to buy yachts, haven't they? Or holiday homes. So there's none left, apparently. So I'm just going to have to, you know, instead of relying on proper taxpayers' money, I'm going to have to go through the back door and tax people who are gamblers. You know, I mean, I don't want to do it, but needs must.
Okay, well, let's move on. So let's talk about you for a minute. So you're currently known as one of the top comedy tutors in the country, having taught thousands of wannabe stand-ups. But there was one course where you ended up with a few superstars on the same course. So I believe you did a course with Greg Davies, Rod Gilbert, Alex DeBoos. I think there were others. Yeah. Did you realise the talent you had in the room at the time?
No. Well, I did, but only in as much as they just made me laugh like drains. But they always do. I mean, it's like, I could never do that thing. I could never predict. You know that thing in films where they go, "My words, that young William Shakespeare, he'll go far." I couldn't predict who would. I mean, they're all funny. It sounds awful, doesn't it? But they are. They're all my babies, and I wish them all well. And although there's no money left, and they're not really my children, but there's, you know, so no is the short answer. I couldn't have predicted it. And also, I always thought Greg although Greg Davis, although he always made me laugh loads, foolishly, what do I know? I thought, well, the trouble is his height's going to stand against him, isn't it? Just to, yeah, what do I know? But I was going thinking, oh yeah, because they want to line them up in shots. They go make Tom Cruise stand on a box. What are they going to do with Greg? Make him bend at the knees. So he's good, talented boy, but he'll have to stick to the clubs. And he's everywhere now. He's taken over. Although when you watch Taskmaster, he is sitting down a lot of the time,
Yeah.
isn't he?
So you studied
Yeah.
at Middlesex University. Wasn't there a mix-up with the course you were on? If I remember rightly, you wanted to do metalwork, but you ended up doing something to do with performance art.
That's right. Yes. I was fully prepared to do, to take the world of cabinet making, metal cabinet making by storm. Um, but due to a slight mix up with my medication, the bloody doctors said I wasn't allowed to hold any sort of screwdriver or indeed any heavy bludgeoning implement. So I had to give up that dream. And I saw this one thing that I was into at the time. This was at art college where I was just like, basically, I was doing performance art. So my performance art was basically getting a big mallet, smashing stuff up, and then I'd call it like, a melon. That'd be the death of capitalism. And then following semester, I might do like some cheap pottery that I picked up at Oxfam, and I'd smash that. And I'd call the petrochemical industries indiscretions. So it's a lot of hammer related performance art. Yeah, a lot of, and it's quite good because it really sorted out my sciatica at the same time. I think the motions. But so I thought, well, I quite enjoy performance art, and it's quite pretentious, and no one can say it's right or wrong because you look at a picture and you say, well, that horse has got a wonky leg, but you're doing a bit of performance art, and what they're going to say that, oh, that bit of rope that had the yogurt pot was a bit wonky. It's not the same thing. So anyway, so I signed up for this course called performance art, and I got there, um, and it was what they meant was performing arts, which I'd never done before in my life. So it was all drama. I ended up doing the drama bit, but it's drama, dance, and music. So I'm walking around for the first semester in, you know, with a bag with footless tights and jazz shoes, going, when are we going to get, behind the easels? When are we doing the art? So that was, but the ratio of men to women were about 3 to 1. So um, I quite enjoyed my college years, um, despite my
So men
huge
to men to women was
personality
three to
failings.
one. So loads of blokes to hang
Yeah,
out with,
but
go to the
some of
pub, and
them
all
were,
that kind of stuff.
yeah, because those girls, oh, you know what I mean? Just like banging on with their emotional energy and their capacity to
I
understand,
guess the
when
metalwork gene runs strongly through your veins, as one of your hobbies is casting jewellery. So
I
tell us
love
what you
it. I love
make
making
and what
jewelry.
they sell for.
Well, I work on basically I just all make it for myself. I'll do bronze and I'll do silver, and occasionally copper if I can get near a church, um, or lead if I can get near a church with an old ceiling, an
A
old
roof.
roof. But um, but they're I don't know. I mean they're very personal to me. I'll make it's in the business. It's called a maquette. It just means a model. You make a clay maquette, you fire it, and then you make a silicon mold of that. Um, I can just bet you anybody listening to this, they can feel their teeth growing. It's not the wildest stuff in the world, but I honestly love doing it. And I had so many that I had a whole bunch of spares and ones that I made in preparation for making the final version. So if I've got 3 or 4 fools or 3 or 4 green men or 3 or 4, designs from, uh, that are leading to the final one, then I used to take them to a shop shop called Atlantis in London, and they'd flog them um, for me. This is before COVID. Actually, I think about it. COVID started just after I was handing all this jewellery over in a public place. I don't know if that was any.
Hmm.
I did.
So you don't
I
really
did
sell
use
it then?
pangolin blood to. Yeah, yeah, but the thing is, I still do it, and I occasionally, people ask me, they ask for commissions, but it's just my main thing that I love doing is comedy. This is just a hobby, slash midlife crisis, um, but I love it. I love it, and it's like anything you do in life. Everything. I mean, I think I know, Her Majesty's prison service to one side. When you're out, we both work in an area where we're using our skill set, and but everything else you do feeds into that. You know, like when I wrote that book, which they keep changing the title on, but it's a sort of teach yourself book on stand-up comedy. And I started the book with a brilliant quote from the child psychologist Winnicott, and I wish I'd said it, but I say it millions of times a year. He said, all creativity comes out of play. And I think that's so true. Everything that's ever made me money has come out of mucking around. Um, just that sounds so crass, but anything that I've done, nothing good has come out of committee for me. It's always coming out of play. And so if I'm playing with jewelry, that feeds into, it all feeds into your creative self, I mean, clearly, I do subscribe to The Guardian, but it does just, it all feeds in, making the jewelry, um, painting, doing the gigs, shouting at young people at bus stops. It all feeds in.
What kind of
Touchstone
things do
of
you shout
creativity,
at
I think.
kids at bus stops then?
Yeah, like yeah, bring back national service, you long-haired lout. Uh, son of mine. I shout that quite a lot because none of them are my son, and it's quite a safe thing. Not even the girls. So
Mm.
it's quite a safe thing to shout. Um,
Right. Well, I want to get into your background and understand a bit about the
yes,
years that made you the
yeah,
person you are today.
yeah, yeah.
So let's crack on with a few questions. So, what's the first time you remember doing something naughty? And
Well,
did you get in
again,
trouble for it?
go on. Well, not no, well, not directly. Again, a lot of my stories finish with this, but it wasn't really my fault, right? It wasn't really my fault. The backstory, I don't think you know this about me, but it's absolutely true. I was born in Canada. My dad used to be in the Royal Canadian Air Force, and I was born 1960, and he got seconded down to the Bay of Pigs in Florida when the Cuba. It just sounds like you know I'm making up. But I swear to God, it's true. So my dad was seconded to the
For the
American Air
Cuban
Force.
Missile Crisis, wasn't it, in
Yeah, yeah,
1963? Was
yeah,
it?
yeah. That's right. So
Yeah.
although I was born in Canada, we spent a couple of summers down there, and apparently I was a very precocious child. I don't remember this, but through a series of slightly unfortunate events, I think we were visiting a relative it must have been Dallas. It must have been Dallas because just 7 days shy of my third birthday, I'm just leaving out all the tedious details. I found myself leaning out of a sixth floor window in a book depository in Dallas, um, uh, and somebody had left a gun behind. Well, a rifle is what it was. Um, and I don't remember pulling the trigger, but apparently all hell let loose in the motorcade, and you know, very quickly, Dad moved us back up to Canada. So I was never actually found out for that, but I do feel slightly responsible for you know, American foreign policy for the next 15 years, the possibly the election of Nixon, possibly the Vietnam War. But in my defence, I was, 7 days shy of my third birthday. So
You're responsible for a lot of different an issue. I mean, it's been years and years and years where people say, "Where were you when Kennedy got shot?" Now, I want to know
I can tell
why
them
everyone has to
exactly.
provide an alibi. What's the biggest lie
Well,
that you've ever told?
when I'm at parties now, I don't. if people say, "What do you do for a living?" I tend to lie then because I think it's too loaded. You know, if you say I'm a comedian, they go, "Oh, have you seen you at?" Or what's worse? What's worse? Because I moved to, I don't know if you know this, I moved to Windsor, um, as a, you know, a very staunch royalist who, as I am, who believes that we don't pay enough tax money to a family who have hereditary lands and titles over us all. So, you know, that's one reason I came here to show my moral support. But I don't know if you know. I mean, this is you can edit this bit out. But yeah, I've got mentioned on the radio the other day, and it was Radio 4, so some people had heard about it, and people in Windsor listened to the programme. So loads of people I vaguely know came up to me and they went, "Oh yes, I heard you were on the radio the other day." And I went, "Yeah." And then the second point was going, "I don't really like comedy. And what can you do with that as a piece of information?" You know, really, I
Well,
don't like words. You know, so
yeah.
so the biggest lie I tell now if I'm at a party, I just say if I say I'm a teacher, I do. First of all, I feel like I'm lying because I offer about three different variations of what I do, so you know, I get around a bit. So now I just tell people I'm a teacher, and that just shuts them up. Don't want to know anymore. You know, much better response than telling people you're a falconeer. I think years ago, I was one of the first times I did the Glastonbury Festival. Um, you know, like when you start off and you think of your material as like a finite pie. You know, oh, I've got my stuff about relationships, and I've got my stuff about trying to give up smoking. I've got my stuff about this, and once you've done that, the pie is much less. Well, this your listeners may or may not know. Um, for years, when you're doing the comedy tent, if you, I was asked to compare a few years the comedy tent in Glastonbury, and it was a 6 hour shift, and you got paid very little, but it was the right busman's holiday. I saw Johnny Cash there. Um, it's got loads of people there. Brilliant, busman's holiday, but it's a 6 hour shift. Um, and the very first year I did it, on the third day, um, the I was a team player, I think we all are when we start out. I mean, I think I still am, but I was a team player there. So the stage manager, the manager had some rules, and one of the rules is, you know, we don't want an empty stage. We don't want people wandering around. So if there isn't an act on, you'll compare, you stay on, you cover for it, right? And I think if I'd had a couple of years more experience, I would have not followed that rule because what happened was there was a group on after me, and I've got to say, 6 hours, 3 hours in, they loved me, and I was, you know, I was riffing, audiences were coming going, but you know, I was just the MC, but they seemed to like me. And they loved the acts, and then I come back on and do a bit of chat, and you know, they made them laugh, and then here's the next act. And you know, the golden rule: try not to do 2 minutes between each act. You know, you know, you're just the oil in the machine. So I was just, you know, keeping it light and fluffy. And then the next group coming on were like an improv troupe, and they all had to be mic'd up, and they also had to put mics on the floor so it could pick up ambient sound. And that was a bit trickier. So the guy said, "Get 5 minutes, do 5 minutes." So I did 5 minutes, and the audience loved me. And then I went, "Right, so here's time for the next act. It's a bunch of improvisers from Bristol." And I turned over, and the stage manager's shaking his head and going, "Do more time, do more time." So I went, so my energy is going, "So here comes the next." "Oh, not yet, ladies and gentlemen, not yet. So they'll be here in a minute." So I'm sort of teasing them, like the crest of the wave, and they know, not quite, ladies and gentlemen. And I've got nothing prepared. So I'm starting doing bollocks like, any anybody first time here at Glastonbury? You know, not really getting away with it. And then after 5 minutes of desultory crap coming out of the gob, I'm looking across and he's going, "Do more time. They're having a problem with the mics." So I've any seen any good bands? Anyone? Yeah. And then they start going, "Fuck off." Oh, all right. And you know, now I'd have called an interval. Or 2 years later, I'd call the interval, but I'm thinking I have to stay on stage. So, you know, 17 minutes in, they're booing as one mass of 3,000 throats. all hating me, quite rightly hating me, because from their point of view, what's this bugger doing on stage, stopping me from enjoying the next act? They're going, get off, and I'm going, I want to get off, I want to get off. So then what happened? It was the first year the police came in, and the comedy tent was a hot day that day, so they rolled up the sides. So it was basically just a roof and then poles, so you could see outside. And this one solitary, lovely, innocent policeman walked by outside, and in a desperate situation to try and curry favour with the crowd, I just went. I said from the stage, "Yeah, yeah, but look over there." Well, they were going boo, boo, and I go, "Yeah, but look over there. Look at the fascists trying to stop us having fun." Yeah, and I could be making this up, but my memory seems to be that they all sort of stopped, all looked at the policeman. The policeman was looking in at them, and then they just turned back to me and went "Boo!" again, and I was on for 45 minutes before the next act,
Wow.
and they were booing.
Logan, so I've actually been on Crime Watch twice, but you've been on television a lot more. Pebble Mill, Peep Show, Packet of Three, The Pallbearers Review, among many others. And you must know a lot of celebrities and put your hand down Alan Titchmarsh's trousers. So if you were invited onto Pro Celebrity Robbery as the pro criminal, who would be your ideal celebrity accomplice?
With no hesitation, Ian McKellen. But we can always sit him in a comfy chair, give him a cat, and make him into the criminal mastermind. Just
We could.
Mr. Ron, I see you've bought me some packets of cigarettes from a vending machine. Well done. I think you don't want to be too ageist about this. You know what I mean? And the man was Gandalf.
I see where you're coming
for
from.
God's
I think
sake.
that's a nice idea. I've always fantasised about going back in time and nicking Shakespeare's quill and parchment. So I don't think anyone should be allowed to write in an ancient language and try and pass it off as English. Which celebrity would you most like to burgle, and what would you take?
I think it would. Well, it's a lazy thing to go for, but a type of person like it'd be a Bezos or a Musk or some hugely rich techno celebrity. Because my very limited experience of rich people is they don't do any cooking themselves, right? They always have a chef, the gardener, and stuff like that. So what I would do is I'd go to go to Bezos, this place, right? Because I think he's only got one. I think he's just got the one place he probably lives in as a billionaire. And
Yeah.
I'd steal his chef, because if I stole his chef, he wouldn't be able to eat. And that'd teach him a lesson, wouldn't it?
If it was me and I had to create a new law, I'd say you can have either traffic lights or a roundabout, but not both at the same junction, because it's confusing. So you go round a roundabout and through traffic lights. But by putting them together, you run the risk of going round traffic lights or through a roundabout. It's like health and safety gone mad. So if you were to create a new law, what would it be?
I think I go on a lot of male retreats. I go on a lot of Buddhist silent retreats and a lot of Vipassana and a lot of shamanic retreats where we're all in smoke lodges, breathing in vapors. So the main thing I do is right. I would ban anybody anywhere in the world starting a conversation by saying, "I'm going on a healing journey." I would ban that as a phrase. Yeah. Because it means nothing. I'm going on a healing journey to the shops. Does anybody want any biscuits? You know what I mean?
I mean, I've been on an Ealing journey quite often. I've been to Ealing because Angela likes going shopping in Ealing. So, you know, that kind of healing journey is you ban that, would you?
No, an healing journey is fine. If you're taking a journey to healing, if you are going on an healing journey, you like eels, you're making a little trip to the East End, getting some jellied eels, that's absolutely fine. But no, the healing journey, people who say that, and allied to that, the people who, anybody who says, I had a really interesting dream last night. Do you want to hear about it?
Do you need to go on a healing journey? Dial 999 now. What's the most creative excuse you've ever come up with?
When I'm losing an argument, um, I'll start making up book quotations or cite up uh, experts who don't actually exist to back up my claims. You know, and I think as long as you talk at a certain speed, you can get away with it.
So do you think that you could do that to defend me if there was an upcoming court case?
Of course.
Do you
Well, what you
reckon you
got?
could use it
What they're
as
claiming?
so that?
Go on. Well, chuck us what the pretend you're the
Well,
lawyer for the prosecution, and I'll come up with a
so
rock solid defence. Just
I
watch this.
believe I
You're
believe
recording this, aren't you?
I believe Ron
So,
I
yeah.
believe Ron was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and he was actually responsible for nicking that bottle of vodka from the off license.
Well, first off, I think we can all agree, according to the work of Terry Nutkin, the famous graphologist and sumerologist, that grain alcohol, does not actually exist. It's been proven it's a societal construct. So to accuse my client of stealing something which is at best um, an idea that was it Thiele de Chiard who said all ideas exist, but they only exist in the news sphere. That I think really Mad Ron, all you can accuse him of is plagiarizing the concept of becoming drunk. So quid pro quo, QED. I think you have to let my client off. And in the great words of Mahatma Gandhi, we've all done shit.
So, what you got coming up? What's your next crime going to be, and where's it going to be taking place then?
Well, it's funny you should say. I've actually got jury service coming up in a couple. Am I allowed to say that? I did service back in my forties, and I thought you only got to do it once in your life. But I think it's moving to a new area. So I've just come back from doing a workshop in Greece. I'm just finishing 3 courses because I usually have a little summer break. So I'm finishing a stand-up course in London, a stand-up course in Tring as part of the Tringe Comedy Festival, which is always a right laugh, and which is uh, where we first met when you were jimmying the loose change out of that condom machine in, I think it was the Bell, and I'm also finishing an online course. So in about 3 weeks, theoretically, I was going to have a month off, but I'm doing 2 weeks jury service, and then once I get back off that, I'm going off to Greece to do a workshop called Comedy and Creativity. But it's just an excuse to punch people who say they're on a healing journey. You know.
So I've been banged up for a little while now. Don't get many chances to hear what's going on in the outside world. So, anything happening out there that I should know about?
Well, did this might come as a bit of a shock to you, but did you know that the curly whirlies have actually got a little bit smaller in
They have.
terms of packaging? Same price, but a bit smaller. So, there's. I know everyone's banging on about all the sort of right wing swings in elections in Europe, and the fact we've got an election coming up on July the 4th, and all that, and the fact that huge temperature increases in America, meaning that up to 100 million people might suffer heat exhaustion in a first world country. But for me, the standout news is that curly whirlies, are actually a bit smaller.
So how much
Than they were
smaller
at
are
the
they
same
now?
price. Well, how long's a piece of string? Whatever that is, that much probably. It's considerably small. I mean, it's not small enough that if you held it, it would pass through the molecules of your hand. Still you can still grip it, but just not as much to grip, which is not the first time I've used that sentence.
Well, when I was eating curly whirlies when I was a kid, when I was about 3, curly whirlies were at least the size of my forearm, and now
Yes.
they're only like the size of my hand. So they have
Yeah.
shrunk quite a
Yeah.
lot, haven't they?
But that's also as well because the
Uh,
universe is inflating. So, the universe is expanding. So of course they're getting a bit smaller. But there's an economic.
so,
So that's quite big news.
so
So
what
if
you're
if
saying
I were
is
you,
what
yeah,
what you're saying is curly whirlies have stayed the same size, but the universe is
it's got
expanding,
bigger.
so
Yeah,
that's why they
yeah,
appear to be smaller.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But that's surely, surely that can be sorted out. You know,
What's one piece of advice that you give me to help keep me on the straight and narrow once I've got out? What, like, is there a hobby or life advice? What do you think I should be doing?
uh, I think any time you get into conversation with people in the pub, in the park, with your parole officer, just make it one of the first things you say is tell them that you have decided to take turmeric, right? Just say, I'm taking turmeric because that conversation will then finish very, very quickly and you won't have to explain yourself. You got the rest of the day to yourself and no one's asking awkward questions. So just have a go. Ask me. I defy you to think of a follow up. Just ask me a question that could drop me in the doo doo.
Where were you on the 5th of June at 8 p.m.?
I was buying turmeric because I think it's good for your immune system. I mean, I'm just looking, I can see you're losing the will to live as I speak. I mean, try and deny it. It's good for your immune system, and it's one of the 50 foodstuffs you should have every day to make yourself live that little bit. You see what I mean? You're almost bleeding out of your ears right now. So,
I know that saffron is worth more than gold, and like literally, I've told all the lads if they break into any houses, nick any stuff, just go in the cupboard, just nick the saffron. Don't worry about the
yeah.
televisions. So this has been quite an interesting chat, and I'll get back to you if you've made it into the gang, and I'll send you a sign. So
Mhm.
the sign will be, well, keep an eye out for a fish in your toilet bowl, and then you'll know to get back in touch with me again.
Lovely.
Now,
Lovely.
I've got to
Thank you.
go. I've got to end this call because the prison sniffer dog, I've arranged for it to come round and hump my leg later. So I've got to
Yeah.
go and get ready. I'll see you soon. Thank you.
All right. Always a pleasure. Never a chore.
Do you struggle with small talk? Just want to be left alone? Why not learn to speak turmeric? Barry says, I was at a party and a complete stranger came up and talked to me. I wanted him to go away because I've got enough friends. That's where me being fluent in turmeric kicked in. I said, I never start the day without a shot of turmeric. He just turned and ran off. Soon word got around and no one spoke to me all night. Learn to speak turmeric today. You don't even have to take it.